And there's other tools too that I've talked about with the students that I've noticed filmmakers use to keep us wondering what's going to happen next. And sometimes you can sustain a whole movie with them. Sometimes you really can't. You need the help of other tools. But something like what Frank Daniel used to call advertising. I don't like that term. I use telegraphing. It's essentially telling the audience literally where the film is going. Because a drama, unlike a novel, usually they happen in the past. You've got a narrator that tells you what happened. Drama, since Greek times, was something that was about to happen right in front of you. Okay, they've been written in the present tense. They're instructions for actors and set people about what to do for something you're going to create right in front of you, of the audience. And so it's particularly important to keep the audience attention into the future, anticipating. And so you can have something called an appointment. You've seen it used in movies. I'll meet you at Jerry's Juiceteria at 5 o'clock. And then because film is selective, you don't just turn the camera on and run it. You cut to different places. When you arrive at Jerry's Juiceteria, you're not confused about that. You don't know. You know why you're there. So you maintain anticipation and also you're not coherent. Another one that can be used as a deadline. It's called a deadline or a ticking clock. You've got 5 days to bring the Duke back. By midnight Friday, or I'm cooked. You do that, and it's done in Toy Story. I mean, from the get-go, these guys knew what they were doing. The original one, it's the move is in a week, right? So we know that we have 1 week that this story is going to take place in a week, and that helps us because we've all, I think, had the experience of being in a movie where you thought it was over, and then it just keeps going. And it keeps going. And it keeps going.
That would be the end of Lords of the Rings. They had like 8 endings, and we're just like, "Are you kidding me, Peter? Come on, let's move on."
Right. Yeah, I remember I had a friend. A bunch of us, like we're teenagers, went to the opening of the first one. To get together in the theater, a bunch of colleagues, and one of them had just before the movie started, he got one of these big gulp waters. I said, "You're not going to make it. There's no intermission." I was right. Anyway, the problem is that the filmmaker hasn't signaled properly when the big moment is, because we do emotionally save ourselves for these big moments. And so a deadline can help with that you put a framework around it. The one that example I like to give is, what is that, American Beauty, where it starts out with a guy saying, "In a year I'll be dead." Right. There's a deadline for you. So what it does is it lets the audience relax and not wonder where this is going. You don't want the audience wondering where it's going. You want them to be anticipating. So if you tell them where it's going, okay, let's get there. Yeah.
And that's what it's like. So American Beauty is a great example. I love doing this with movies. I did it with my last movie I directed, where I show a scene that's far from inside the movie, closer to the end at the very beginning, to let everybody know, oh hell, this is we're in for a treat. And you're waiting for either there's a meltdown or a murder or something happens, and it's not a surprise that there's a murder. We all know that someone's going to get killed, but who did it? And when are we going to get to that point? And now you're on the ride with them. So I love that technique.
We just did Sunset Boulevard with my students.
It's a great, the player. I mean, if you remember the player, there's so many of those. That technique is so powerful. If you do it properly, you show that little bit of information at the beginning. You're like, what do you mean someone's gonna die? And then you're in. So now you're completely connected to these characters. You're like, when am I gonna see the tiger come out? This is basically where we've been informed that the tiger is there. And he killed somebody, and we're like, "Where is the tiger? When is this? When is the hammer going to drop?" And I love that. I love speaking of suspense, because again, I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, and I've never heard anyone explain suspense better than Hitchcock, which is the bomb underneath the table. Right. Can you tell that story?
Oh yeah, that's the idea. Is that you can sustain suspense longer than surprise. The effect of surprise is 15 seconds, I think, and suspense maybe 15 minutes. And the difference would be that if you have two people sitting in a cafe talking, and then a bomb blows up, okay, you had a shock effect. But if you reveal to the audience ahead of time that there's a bomb under the table, then every line of dialogue is imbued with this dramatic irony. And every line of dialogue has a double meaning. I mean, when somebody says, do you think I should get another coffee? Well, I'm not sure, and tick, 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 tick. Suddenly that innocuous line has a huge impact. And that's another one of the tools is dramatic irony. I have to let my students know, the characters don't have to know everything all the time. You can, reveal things and just not let them see certain things.
But what was the big rule? But what was the big rule that Hitchcock said that you cannot break when doing that technique? Do you remember?
Oh, no. Tell me.
So the technique of the suspense is he did it once in a movie and the audience was very angry at him, which is you show them the bomb and it's ticking, but under no circumstances can that bomb go off and kill the characters. You cannot let that happen, he goes, because the audience will be very angry with you. If you kill them like surprise, that's fine. But if you you torture them for 15 minutes and then you still kill them, you lose the audience. And I was like, because he did it in one of his early movies. I forgot, it was Foreign Correspondent or something like that, where there was a bomb on the bus, and we knew the bomb was on the bus, and it was ticking, and it blew up, and everyone was like, no, you can't. There's a contract. There's a contract. Yeah. We have an agreement here. You can't do something like that. So. That's a rule that I haven't seen broken very often. I mean, in a suspenseful situation, in that specific scenario, you can't blow up the characters. You just can't.
Yeah.